You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast live show Thursday night after hours. Oh, and with me today is my guest. I'm Carlos. My guest today, all the way from Louisiana. I just flew over. I was going to wave. I was going to let you know I was flying over your house yesterday. From Louisiana, Mitchell Prudhomme. And all the way from the West Coast, establishing founding member and founder of the Beans and Dice West Coast, Mike Lorenzo. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Hey. Yeah, man.
And how are you doing, Mitch, in Louisiana? How are things going with you?
It's spring break, so I've been getting a lot of gaming in. I was just telling you guys, I know yesterday was 420. My eyes may look puffy to the viewers out there. It's just allergy season. There's pollen everywhere. My eyes have been like watering all day. So puffy eyes, but lots of games. That's how it's been for me the past week.
And you, Mike, what you been up to?
Oh, getting Kickstarters in and not being able to play them. And trying to make some shelf room, actually. I've been selling some games off. So.
Oh, let the folks know where they can find more information about what you're selling.
Well, I only have my stuff posted in the, I'm in a couple of Seattle board game sales groups. So I got those posted in there, and I really don't want to ship over to the East Coast because I know that's going to be pretty pricey. So I'm trying to keep it local to keep the cost down and hopefully move a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that shipping all the way from the West Coast to here has got me saying probably not. Like, I may not be buying anything from you.
That would be pretty brutal.
Well, my hope is to get some
worries.
topics in for the folks, get us kind of prime the pump, get us started. And I was going to reach out to Michael to prime the pump for the folks. What topics did you bring for today that you wanted to discuss?
I kind of brought it up on your talk show last week that I think that we should hit even a little bit two things: the size of board game boxes getting out of hand and the cost of board games getting out of hand. It's just I would understand how the hell we're supposed to be able to afford playing games lately or even be able to store them. So
man, I agree.
A quick example.
Oh, go ahead.
What is this thing?
Foundations of Rome.
What the flip is this, man? Like
four words.
Over
produced.
It's very possible. I think even Tom from Dice Tower said that it was overproduced a little bit once he got it in. He said that something to the effect of like it's a little too big. The box is too big. So
I know him and Mike Delicio. Yeah. I think Mitchell, did you help them put that away at Dice Tower Retreat?
Yeah, me and Rob were helping them pick up, and it was ridiculous. And they use every inch of space in that box, which is the crazy part.
They really do. And the shelving system is kind of neat, where you lift the box and all the, every player's boards and all their pieces slide out in the shelf that you can just
hand them. But if you don't put it exactly right, everything, because you put the trays in vertically. So it has like that plastic piece to keep everything in. If it's not just right, they all get all messed up. So you got to be careful with repackaging.
Yeah, definitely.
I was looking at, so I saw, speaking of Dice Tower, at the retreat, I saw some people playing Great Wall, and it looked really cool. And I saw there's a reprint on GameTown right now, and I wanted to go see how much it was. I was thinking about backing it, and I see 170. I'm like, okay, well, that must be the all-in. Like, I want to see, what are the other tiers? That is the cheapest thing, just the game. And then it goes like 300 something for the all-in.
That's crazy.
Like, what the heck? That's insane.
Did they ever make like a basic retail version? Did they ever make like a basic retail? Like, we always talked about it would have been easy to just make it at a Polyomino's. The Foundations of Rome.
Not that I know of.
No. I don't think
Foundations? No,
definitely not Foundation. I thought you were talking about Great Wall. No, Foundations is. This is it. I don't think they have a plan for it to go to retail. They've had such issues with this one shipping and all the typical delays that have been going on lately. So I think they're just happy to get it in players' hands right now. So
how has it changed your behaviors, Mike? The increase, you brought it up, the increase in game costs. And folks, we're going to open up the phone lines here in just a couple minutes to get your thoughts on this. But Mike, how's it changed your behaviors?
I'm backing a lot less Kickstarters, that's for sure. Even the ones that, there's a few select that as soon as they went up, I pretty much backed. And they weren't too expensive, but one that I really wanted to back, which was Final Girl Season 2, I was thinking, oh man, this is going to be awesome. A whole bunch of new ones. And I went on there and it was like over $100 just for the expansion. I was like, well, I'm passing on that one. I'll wait till somebody gets it local and then doesn't play it, and then buy it off of them or something. And it's still sold. Like, I think it made, I don't know, 300, 400,000. So
I'll say that was kind of a behavior that I've always had.
Some people down.
I've always had that behavior of try not to buy it and just kind of wait. And I had a local guy who would go kickstart everything. He would kickstart all kinds of stuff and then never play him, and then I'd buy them off him for cheap. But then he moved over to Seattle. Hey, Mitch, what are your thoughts on the ever increasing price of games?
No, I fully agree. I used to be, anytime I'd find a game that I felt like I would want to play several times, I would get it to have in my personal library. And nowadays, I just have to suffice with, if someone in my general area has a game that I know I can play every now and then, I won't get it because it's just not worth it at this point. Unless it's a game I'm going to be playing weekly, then I might pick it up. But I've severely slowed down on game purchasing lately. I bought King's Dilemma a couple weeks ago. Because
wow, you did?
Yeah, and we can talk about that later if we have time. But other than that, it's been probably months since I bought a game, which is a record for me, probably.
At this point, I'm going to open up the phone lines and see what the folks at home think. What do the folks at home think about the ever-increasing price of games? Phone lines open, 813-618-7099, and hopefully we'll get our regular caller to call in. Mitch is always wait a minute. I'm doing this wrong. I'll see if we even get any phone calls. This is so strange. We're like 2 hours behind our regular schedule. I'm on a trip for business. I know Raph is saying, where's the neon lights? If he's talking about my little beans and dice lights that I've been throwing around everywhere, they're all at home. I had to pack light. I just got one carry-on and made my way to San Antonio for some business. So I'm out here. I'll be here till tomorrow and then back in Tampa for Blood Bowl, going to Cocoa Beach for this weekend's Three Kingdoms Challenge. I'm going to meet up with James Luff for a Blood Bowl game out there, Blood Bowl tournament. But that's why things are a little different today. Here's Wayne's comment, reaction to Raph's comment, throwing shade because Wayne's got puns, lots of puns. Wayne.
Wow.
Wayne,
in the Discord just now, Kyle was asking, "Wait, did I miss the show?" I think a few people forgot about the time getting pushed back, so hopefully they'll get on shortly.
Oh, we got a call coming in. Let's see what it is. Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
Hey, girls. Wayne from Tampa.
Hey, we got a caller. We did it. Late night show. We got a caller.
You're stealing my thunder. I'm supposed to call in first.
I know. I was waiting for you to hang up and call in. Yeah, no, it's too expensive now, man.
That would have been too meta.
But no, I agree. It's getting really pricey. I've actually only backed, I think, 2 Kickstarters all year, and one of them was to support I think Dice Tower or Secret Cabal, one of the two of them. So my Kickstarters have gone way down, and I've only bought 2 games all year. And really, I bought Chocolate Factory because it was good price on it, and then I bought Dune because I loved it, and so we're talking, other than a couple Christmas presents for board games, I don't really count those. I bought 2 board games in 6 months probably, which is pretty low.
And both of those were from Carlos's Bad Influence, it seems like. Both of those were games you played with him first, right?
Yeah, well, that's what it is now. I'm getting to the point now where I'm not buying games that I haven't played. I'm playing a game, saying, "Yep, this is a game I want to own. I'm going to take it." And that's like I've come so like I was looking at Autobahn on Kickstarter. And I'm like, that looks like a cool game, but I don't know if I'm willing to invest in that right now. It looks like it's a couple hour, 3 hour long game. It's a heavy euro. I want to play before I try it. And then like I was interested in Last Light. And then it's like, well, to get the base game, it's like $90, and then if you want the deluxe copy, it's like 140, and if you want the 6-player expansion, it's 180, and super deluxe is 200 something. And I'm like, I'm out. It's just too much.
Yeah.
I think this is it's going to get to the point where people are buying less and less, and I've made a point like I bring some of those old school games out that I've owned since the early 2000s, late 90s, where it's like, these are cool games. Let's bust out some old games and play them. So I'm making a concerted effort this year to play my older games and then not buy games until I play them at least once, which is where I think places like Your Turn are going to really do well in the future, because you can go there and try all the games before you buy them.
Yeah, true.
That's a good point.
Wayne is looking
I'm
like
at
the
point
old
now
guy.
where it's all my Kickstarters that were supposed to deliver last year are now delivering. So it's kind of like tiding me over, and it's almost swaying me from like I'm looking at my list. I'm like, okay, well, I know I got these that are going to be shipping soon, so I'm not even going to bother backing other stuff. And I think Kickstarter's gotten out of that insta buy or that insta back level of pricing, where it would kind of be like right on the cusp, and you're like, $40, that's worth it. And now it's like 75 before shipping. And it's like,
Yep.
I'm going to back off of that one.
Too much. I just looked. I currently have 6 unfulfilled Kickstarters. That's the lowest I've probably ever had in 5-6 years, easy. And two of them is, one of them is Dice Tower, and one of them is Secret Cabal, and the third one is the Avatar RPG. So I really only have 3 outstanding board games that have yet to fulfill, and I haven't backed one. And
what are they? Can you share them with us? What are those games?
It's a Campaign Trail, Trekking Through History, and the expansion for the Warehouse 13 board game are the only. So one's an expansion I have the base game of. Yeah. The Campaign Trails, it's cool. I went in all on that because I like that topic, so it should be fun. And probably the next, I'm not really looking at. Probably the next one will be the Tiny Epic Blood Rage.
Tiny Epic Blood Rage. I want that.
Tiny Epic Blood Rage.
So, but that'll probably be the only one I would think about, because that, again, a game limit will probably be like $40. I bet you their price is going to go up $5-10. It's probably be 40 or 50 to get that game. Which at that point, it's like, those what Kickstarters used to be. But yeah, I mean, and this desire to deluxify too is driving up the price even more. Like don't even want to know what the price. I'm probably going to buy it, but the deluxe version of oh my God, Castles of Burgundy. That's going to come out in the next year.
You got Suro, Super Deluxe Suro, Super Deluxe Castles of Burgundy. Yeah. I mean, I think more games should do. That was like, the new Castle Panic. I think games should do more like what Raw did with its reprint. It looks better, looks different, but they didn't go crazy uber deluxe. It's like it's still an affordable game.
Yeah.
Yes, I wonder if we're going to see more people going into the Tiny Epic vein. Making it smaller footprint for cheaper, shipping prices and just production prices as well. With how everything's going up right now. Yeah,
and hopefully, I know that like what was one of the major German manufacturers has a facility here in the United States, and I know that they're investing more in that. So I wonder if in the next, if shipping prices don't come down, it might be that some board game production comes back to the States. But I don't even know if that would really drive prices down. Just with the price of the raw materials in general.
Yeah, I think it'll be
it's crazy.
Zero.
And net zero there, yeah. But it's just surprising because there's so many games that are coming out that I'm like, I would love to own that game. It looks cool, but I just don't have, I have the money, I guess you'd say, but like I don't like. Am I really going to go spend? Like when I was dropping $40, you're not thinking about it. But when you're dropping 120, you go, that's 3 games of old games, 3 old games for that price. And the experience
Yeah,
that much better,
exactly.
you know, with some of these components, you know, like all the stuff. Although I tell you what, I saw Nick Obin undoing the Wonderland's War, and I was like, I should back that one. That looked cool.
Well, thanks for the call, man. We really appreciate you being first caller. That'll prime the pump. Let others know we are live today. I appreciate it.
There you go. No problem.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna share, but I'll wait till he's off the phone to say it. But he's looking like the old man that shows up to game day, and he's got like a satchel of 20-year-old games, and he's like, no, ignore the box art. This game is good. This game's good. He's got like Medici, and he keeps showing up to my house, where he doesn't push it hard. He just kind of takes them out of the bag and sets them on the corner of the table, kind of that passive aggressive, like, I brought these, and you're like, but I got new hotness. We got some comments. Raph says, buy all the games. Buy all the games, says Raph. David Dugas says, so I think part of not backing more Kickstarters and buying board games for some, especially me, is growth in board gaming and being more selective. When you find a regular gaming group, you have some to help you carry the load with you. That's a great point.
Yeah, that's pronounced Duga. That's like a Louisiana name, not Dugas.
Listen, English is already not my first language. Okay, I told you Creole is nowhere near. Thank you, David. That's a great comment. Speaking of finding new game groups to help you carry that load, Michael, how's it going out there in Washington State? Have you found someone to help you carry the load of the purchases?
Not really. Like I said, I went to that one game night at the group. There's like a Seattle board gaming group here that I joined, and I went one night, and just with my workload and everything else going on, it's hard to. I think they meet like every other Wednesday night, and I'm probably a little too OCD with my games.
No, not you. No.
I know.
I still remember that day you gave me that death stare when I set my bag near your bag.
It was not oh man, you should be arrested for the way that you treat some of your games, man.
I'm telling you, man, at Sobo, we set up a game at Chocolate Factory, and then Jay Bell, my friend, wanted to teach Carlos his game that he designed. And I was like, you go play it up later before I'll pick up Chocolate Factory. There were, I think, 2 bags about that big in the whole box. And I was the one tasked with cleaning it up. I felt like I was committing a war crime because I had to pick what 2 components am I going to put in these bags and which ones am I just going to dump in there. It was horrible. You made me feel dirty, Carlos.
Carlos has that way about him.
Yes, you're a bit OCD, Mike. We get it.
Go ahead.
We get it, Mike. You're a bit OCD. Hopefully, you found a good group that fits your style, that can fit with you.
Well, I've been meeting some more people now that I'm selling games. So it's kind of like, last couple of people that I met with, I ended up like standing there and talking with them for 20, 25 minutes, going through the types of games we like, and why they're buying the game that I was selling, and what they're looking to get rid of. And the problem is here in Seattle, it's like anywhere you drive, you're either driving around a lake or taking a ferry over a lake, or it just takes a long time to get anywhere in this town. So they may only be 15 miles away, but it literally takes you like 45 minutes to an hour to get there sometimes. So I'm stumped, like I said, I think once things kind of calm down with work and I'm able to get out there a little bit more, I'll definitely find more gaming people to meet up with.
We got an idea for you. You take your games, you post them up for sale, right? And then you offer 25% off if they invite you to the next game night.
I could do that, yeah.
Hey, Mr. Jeeves says, I'm cutting down drastically on game purchases, especially on Kickstarter. Wayne says, LOL, you will play the older games and love them. He also talks to David. He says, great point, David. As you get over the need to own them all and all the expansions, you become more discerning. David comes in and says,
I will definitely agree with that, because typically when I would back stuff on Kickstarter, I was like, bless you, man. I was all in all the time. And I've started realizing, after a couple of years, I'm like, I don't even touch the expansions on some of these games. And it's the last couple of Kickstarters that I actually were interested in and back. I just didn't even bother with the expansion. I figured, I'll just play the base game. I usually enjoy that the most anyway. And, there are those few games out there where if you don't have the expansion, you kind of miss out on some of the stuff. But
Champions of Midgard.
For the most part, what's that?
Champions of Midgard.
Champions, man. Scoundrels is a must-have when you're playing that game. And Valhalla for Champions of Midgard. But, so I definitely started backing off on getting expansions or going all in. Like even the Lawyer Up Season 2, I didn't even bother getting the solo part of the expansion, which normally I would just do it just to have it. I'm like one of those completionists. So I'm kind of getting out of that habit too.
Hey, Mitch, would you be more, and the phone line's open, folks, 813-618-7099. Mitch, would you be more apt to spend your money on upgrading the game as you go instead of having to buy all the upgrades as part of a kit? Right. So when you look at the deluxeified, I think you brought it up, Mitch, the deluxeification of games, making them more expensive. If a game comes out, shows itself to have good mechanisms, would you be more up to or more apt to buy the upgraded components later?
No, I mean, I've talked about this before. Unless it serves a purpose, I'd rather spend that money on a different game, even in increments. I'd rather save it for a different game. That's just me personally. I know that's, I guess, probably blasphemous in the board gaming community, but having metal coins feels nice. But I have more priorities over just having something hefty in my hand.
Would you say you're more apt to kickstart it with the metal coins than you are to upgrade it later for the metal coins?
Would you say? Am I more likely to kickstart it first?
With metal coins. Which would you do more? Kickstart it because it's got metal coins, or buy the metal coins after you fall in love with the game?
The only game upgrade I have ever bought were broken token player boards for Terraforming Mars because the table got bumped way too many times. So I'm not more apt to do really one or the other because that's the only thing I've ever done.
So he's not the one to talk to about this.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, if there's any like upgraded component that is a must-have, is usually dual layer boards. If that's something that you can, I mean, usually Kickstarters, they kind of, have that as like a stretch goal or something. But that for me that's like an always, where I used to be metal coins all the time. But now again, with the prices, I'm like, I've got this whole set of iron clays that have been sitting over here that I only use for, Power Grid
and brass.
I'm going to start using them in other games, So.
See, I'm more of the person who will, if you can milk me dry over a period of time, much easier than you could in like one shot.
Don't say it like that.
This is after hours,
You're right.
Hey, it is after hours. The kiddos are in bed, folks. Watch out. But no, I think of X-Wing or other games, even like Terraforming Mars. Over a period of time, I have collected everything. But had you tried to sell me Terraforming Mars with every expansion and all the broken token upgrades and all the acrylics and the oceans, I would have never made that purchase. But like a frog in boiling water, if you just, that's a Louisiana reference there for you, Mitch.
This analogy again.
Slowly, you'll get my money if you're just kind of dripping. The Unmatched is another example of that. I keep buying Unmatched because they kind of slowly keep adding pieces. Mr. G says after hours is getting dirty.
Expansions, I'll buy them all day. If it's a game I love, I need every piece of content. I just don't need every piece of material to make the things out of. You mentioned, I don't remember what you mentioned that made me think of this, but Marvel United actually. So if you go all in, that's 20 boxes. crazy. My buddy got his in the other day, all of his boxes. Now, I'd played just the base Marvel United whenever it came out. And I was like, this game's all right. And all the extra people you get, it's a very slight change to the mechanic. It didn't seem worth it to me. However, I must say, the other night he got me to play. Again, it was the first time I'd played since just the base game. And he was like, name a Marvel hero. I bet you can't name one that I don't have. And so me and actually Jay, this was at Jeremy's house, me, Jay, and Jeremy, we just picked random Marvel characters. It was really cool to see them all in the same game. Jeremy picked Deadpool, which he's amazing. He breaks the fourth wall, kind of like that Unmatched.
Yeah, the Unmatched Deadpool.
Unboxed, Carlos. It's like, oh, now switch characters with the person to your left. Throw this thing, and if somebody catches it and you get the bonus, it completely changed up the game. So I was kind of making fun of Jeremy for getting all this stuff, but it really did add to the game. That might be, I know that's not a component upgrade. It's technically an expansion, but in my mind, it's kind of just different figures with slightly different cards. But it was one that I ate my words on that one.
But then again, granted, I mean, that is kind of cool. Like, pretty much anything you name is going to be in there. But if you don't have the storage for it, because I've seen people stack all those boxes one on top of each other, and it's almost as tall as some people,
Yeah.
This is some people right here.
Kind of crazy.
Pointing at them. That's some people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's another issue is just if you're going all in, I went from, like a 2,000 square foot home that I owned where I had my office with all the shelving, that I probably needed to a 900 foot square, apartment where I've got like 1 4x4 calyx and, like one little area under the TV and then all these huge ass Kickstarters start coming in. And I literally, I've never gone through a sale of my games like this where it's just like, I need to sell these games because I literally will not have any room for them that are coming in. So, and it felt kind of liberating, honestly.
That was very cathartic.
So whenever... Sorry, I was trying to not speak over Carlos. So whenever we bought our house, I was young. We were me and my wife were just getting started with our careers. I didn't have a ton of games. We were, and my wife and I are both big readers. There are like these 2 recesses in our wall where we had some really nice shelving built for our books. And I think like in the cabinets underneath, I kept a few games I had. But over the years, my collection has grown. I've taken over more and more of the book space, and we've gotten rid of some of the old books and things. And there was 1 or 2 games early on whenever I started collecting that I sold, and I regretted it. I think I'm a little bit of a hoarder, but it's getting to the point where I've taken over literally one entire half of the alcove. It's not calyx, but kind of a similar idea. And so I'm trying to get her to let me have the other side as well. But she's like, you've already cut down half of my book space. And so what I've been doing whenever I get a new game and I don't have room on my shelf, I think about like the ones that, okay, which ones do I not need to have on display? Some of these I can put down on the cabinet and close the door. But yeah, I think I need to start purging soon. And I could see how it could be cathartic because there are so many games where somebody's like, hey, let's play that. I'm like, nah, it's not that great of a game. And they're like, well, why do you have it?
Why do you have it?
Because I'm a hoarder. That's why I have it. And so I think I'm going to be in your shoes soon there, Lorenzo. We'll see.
Yeah.
If you have any tips for coping with that, please let me know.
Oh, I got you, Bob. I got your tips right here. Here's tip number 1. If you got a master closet, you can then trade space because she will always want more space in the master closet for her clothes. So you can say, listen, honey, I will take just this tiny little bit of the master closet for my 2 shirts. You just let me have the shelf space for my games.
The problem is that's already the case. I already have 2 shirts and 3 pair of pants, and she already has the majority of the master closet. So what you're saying is I need to go and buy a bunch of clothes to take up more space, and then throw those clothes away.
Force the issue. Force it. Artificially force the issue.
You're on there.
Any ideas for
the one video that kind of like, what's that?
Any ideas for Mitch?
Yeah, I was going to say the one video that I saw on YouTube that kind of opened up my eyes and really made me think about doing it was, no pun included, where they cut their collection down. I think they had over 200 games like in their collection, and they cut it down to 50.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
it's really, they do some pretty good videos. I mean, they've gone above and beyond as far as like trying to find their niche and YouTube, and they really do a lot of research, and it ended up being like this therapeutic, type of reaction where, he was literally like talking about how, they went through the games real quick, and they went down from 220 to 201, and then he was like, because they had this whole goal of getting down to 50 games, like that was going to be it. And he said he was standing there for like almost an hour with 2 games in his hand, saying like, which one of these 2 am I going to get rid of? And it was so hard for him, and it was this whole mental thing that he had to go through in order to bring himself to doing it. And he doesn't recommend it for everybody, and I wouldn't either, but it's a cool video to watch if you haven't watched it, and it definitely opened up my eyes and made me reconsider my quote unquote need to have all these games,
So what I'm hearing from you is I need to create a bracket and have a tournament where I rank all my games, and then the top half stays, the other half go to Goodwill or something.
Well, or sell them, or how many games do you? Here's a question: how many games do you own that you haven't played? And you do play a lot of games. I see you posting all the time. Like you're posting 6-7 games, at least a couple of times a week, that you played.
Yeah, usually about twice a week we'll have a game night, and each night we get in at least 4 games. But
right.
Some of those are repeats. Some of those are my friends' games. Games that I haven't played, my shelf of shame is very, very small. I might have 2 games on it, but that's because they were gifts. And if somebody gives me a game, if I'm not already interested in it, it just takes me a little while to, get read the rulebook and things like that. So I think those are the only 2, or I lied, there are 3. But again, all of them are gifts. All games that I have purchased for myself, I've played. Now, games that I've played in the last year, that's a much smaller number.
Right.
There are games that, earlier on in the hobby that were like, wow, this is awesome. And now it's like, wow, that's complete trash. Or at least, it's a stepping stone. The other day, I think I'd posted in the group, like I busted out Catan because my buddy had just never played it. And it's like, you have to play it at least once, right? But before then, I hadn't played Catan. Who knows how long? Stuff like that is kind of like, gateway games or something in between, that don't hit the table as much with my group of heavier gamers.
Right. Yeah. See, my list is a little longer than that, but there are games that like I played once and then just never went back to because I just never felt the need to do that. Those are the kinds of games where I'm just like, you kind of go through and you hold it in your hand. You're like, when was the last time I played this? When was the last time, did I enjoy it? Have I played it more than once? And, that was easy for me to go through. I don't know. I think I posted like almost 25 games out of my 25, somewhere around there, out of my collection. And I'll be honest, like half of them are already gone and I feel no remorse whatsoever. But there are those few games.
Have you played more than one time? And this kind of goes back to what you guys were talking about a while ago with the expensive games. Someone had mentioned, like, I think it was Wayne. I used to be interested in a game and just grab it. Nowadays, almost always, not all the time, but the majority of the time I have to have played it first. So I have a ton of games that look interesting to me. I bought it, played it one time, and it wasn't up my alley. And I just kept it because I'm a hoarder.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that those might be the easiest to cull.
Wayne acknowledges the video you were talking about, Mike. He says that video was a rough video to watch. But wow, yeah, that was some serious culling. And then he talks about how he has 35 games unplayed in his collection, but identified 6 that he's going to get rid of unplayed. Never going to play them.
Carlos, that's got to rival your shelf of shame. The entire shelf at your house is a shelf of shame, right?
I think my shelf of shame is the size of Mitch's shelf of stuff. Just like. And
how many do you have unplayed, Carlos?
I stopped counting. So if you stop counting, you don't have to worry about it. Mike, let me ask.
Okay.
Did Circadian's first light make the calling?
Well, here's the thing. Rob is getting it from me. He's
Okay.
buying it from me.
Oh, good. So it's local.
But no, Rob. It's not local. It's all the way on the East Coast. I'm
Children. No, local for me, bro. I'm thinking about Carlos. I'm not worried about you, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rob has already grabbed that one, so at least you'll have it near you to play when you're ready.
Did you say something about not shipping? Is Rob coming to pick it up?
Well, William's buying a game off of me, and I'm shipping a few things to my son who lives in Tampa. So I kind of told, I'll just throw it all in one box, make sure it gets there in one piece, in good order, and that'll cut down on the shipping. So I'll be doing it that way. But the only reason I'm getting rid of Circadians, the first edition, is because I actually backed the second edition. So
that doesn't count then.
No, Circadians is a killer game, man. When you were talking earlier about who was it? Was it Wayne that would bring in the old games and kind of passive aggressively put them on the table? I did that for months with Circadians, and I'd be like, I'll admit the cover doesn't look that great, but it is a solid game. And every monthly game, I would bring it out and I got this game Circadians, and everybody kind of gave it eh. And then this one time, I think it was Rob and Muhammad. I was like, dude, let's just play this game. And they're like, all right, go ahead and teach it. And I'm not exaggerating. Probably 2 or 3 times during the game, they looked at me and they're like, this is such a great game. Why haven't we played this before? I was like, guys, I brought this for months and nobody even gave it a second look. And here you are. I told you it was a great game. And then here Rob is. He's actually going to buy it off of me because he likes it so much. So.
And I think during that whole gameplay, I was playing some other game, but I kept coming back to your table, just hovering like, are you moving that rover? Are you going to go pick up some resources?
Yeah.
Y'all did a whole podcast on that game, didn't y'all?
I think we did. I think Mike, you and Rob did a conversation about it.
Yeah, we did.
I'm glad Rob's
good, man. I would highly recommend, because I don't know every game that you probably like, Mitchell, but it just seems like something like this would be up your alley. I think you tend to gravitate towards maybe a little bit heavier games where it's a little more decision making. You would absolutely love this game then.
Well, I remember listening to the podcast, however long ago that was. I mean, and it seemed like something up my alley, but it's not anything that anybody in my game group has, and so I never did pursue it. But I might need to look into that.
Yeah, definitely worth it.
That experience you mentioned, or whoever it was that brought up, Carlos, about Wayne, about bringing a game and it kind of just sits there. That happens all the time in my game group, because if we're at my house, my friends might bring games, or if I'm at their house, vice versa. And we tend to usually kind of ignore the games in the game bag because there's a whole wall of games right there, And sometimes I feel bad, and maybe at the end of the night, we're like, hey, we haven't played in years, let's do one of yours. But me and my friend, we're doing this really interesting thing. I may have mentioned it on the podcast before, but our goal is to get through each of each other's games that we haven't played. So every time we get together, unless there's some outlier like another person who doesn't want to do it, we're trying to play games that the other person owns, but I've never played.
So the cross-reference.
Try to get mark at least 4 of them off the list. What's that?
The cross-reference, kind of like you're making like a Venn diagram to figure out these are the games that aren't mine.
Not even. He has a spreadsheet. He made a spreadsheet, man. And each time we play one, he checks it off and it automatically updates how many we have left. We're down to under 100. I don't know an exact number. Maybe like
who is this?
Something left right now. This is Jeremy. Jeremy.
I'm not surprised. That personality seems very analytical.
Yes, Jeremy is anal.
Analytical.
Wow, we're going there. Huh? Somebody call in, please.
It is after hours.
I don't want us to beat this topic to death. And unless you guys have something else to say on it, I was going to bring a different topic.
What you got, Mitch?
Or do you have any other words?
Whatever you got, man.
Talk about King's Dilemma. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. Have y'all played?
Robert has.
I have not, but Chester's played it. Oh, yeah.
Rob that group. Rob and Chester. Yep.
when I first heard about it, I was very interested in it, and I still am, but I just don't think I have the right group to play with. But please go ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah, so like I said, this is the only game I bought recently because it's not like a game. It's a legacy campaign experience. It almost doesn't feel like a board game. It almost feels more like improv. So if people are watching don't know it, imagine Game of Thrones but in a board game situation. You're sitting around a table, you flip a card, and it gives you a dilemma, and everybody has to decide whether you do this or do that on the dilemma. And sometimes it's really hard decisions. Like the front of the rule book says, like, hey, you're gonna see some real world stuff, but keep in mind it's a game. Mm-hmm. And you have a couple of resources you can spend to kind of leverage. Like, not all votes are equal, so I can put more power down on my vote to make it maybe go my way. We enjoyed it. We played 4 sessions in one, and I think it's a total of 12, so we got a lot of it done. The only issue I have with it is that I think to really enjoy it, you need to be making decisions based on what you think will better your house long-term thematically, right? But with each dilemma, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it gives you hints. Like it'll be like, if you do this, like the food supply might go down, but if you do this, the money supply will go up. And so you have these personal goals each scenario where it's like, you want your resources to be here and here to get the most points. And so a lot of times me, as the one who's trying to win all the time, I'm making decisions based on how do I meet this personal goal. Whereas I know Jeremy is like, his house on his player board, the fluff is talking about how, he's like a supremacist and stuff, and he's high class. And so he's always like trying to make the decisions within the story, which I think that's how it's supposed to be, but it's hard to separate out the actual game mechanics. So it was a fun experience, but again, it didn't feel like we were playing the board game. We weren't rolling dice. We weren't, playing a hand. We were literally flipping a card and then talking about it and all voting and then doing it again. So definitely unique. We're definitely going to finish the campaign, but also different experience than I expected.
What are the mechanisms in the game? Like, how do you win?
Again, you flip a card. It says, do you want to? So at the beginning of each round, you get, like I said, that personal objective. And the board is like I don't know if you have the capability to show this with what you have with you, Carlos.
Not on the mobile
but
setup.
The board is a, think of it's like a linear grid. And there are 5, it's like maybe like military strength, food, things like that, like things, conditions of the empire. And as you make decisions, they're either going to move up or down. And so your personal goal is going to say you want your resources to all be here. So like maybe if you want to be opulent, you want all your resources to be, all those things to be high at the end of the game. Or maybe if you're like a moderate, you want them all to be in the middle. And so you're trying to make decisions to manipulate all these things to go where you want. You don't always necessarily want them to be high. If you want to abstain from a vote, you can instead gain money, and you can then use that money in future votes to say, hey, I'll give you 5 gold if you vote my way. And so it's the 99% of the game is that voting and convincing other people to try to make the kingdom look like you want it to according to your personal goal. Now, whenever you are the one who votes the most on something that passes, there may be a bill that you have to sign, whether good or bad. And so the citizens are going to blame you for that, whether it's a good or bad thing. So you may start the next game with more or less resources because they may respect you or not respect you based on the decision you made in the previous game. That's kind of the legacy aspect of it.
I'm really liking the wow. Like you're okay. Like I feel like you're playing like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
Exactly. We felt like we were sitting around the council table in Game of Thrones. 100%. That's what I felt like. Like I said, it's almost more like an acting exercise than a true board game. That's the moment.
So when you play it, though, are you allowing yourself to get into character and play it as if that character was in this real world, or are you still in the back of your mind, you're just like, I just need to win this game?
Yeah, that's what I was saying a while ago. I try to get into it, but I find myself, there's the text, and then the decisions you make are going to add more cards into to following the story. And I found myself only looking at, okay, is this going to further my personal goal? Which in a way that's thematic, right? Because you're playing this character in this great house, but at the same time, there's an overarching thing as well. So the houses are given randomly. You pick like a symbol, and kind of like in Gloomhaven, which symbol do you like best? And then they're slightly asymmetric, so they all have different goals. What's kind of cool is there's a narrative goal that each house has. For example, mine is embrace immortality. So there's no way you don't know how to become immortal within the game. But if you make some kind of decision that leads to that, and you flip it and it says, oh, you're now immortal. So Lainey, Carlos, you met Lainey.
Yes.
Hers was like conquer a neighboring kingdom. So we had at one point had to make this decision, like, do we attack these people or do we ally with them? And she knew that that was her goal. So she convinced us to attack them. And when we were flipped, it says you have conquered a neighboring kingdom. So she accomplished one of her objectives. So it's not all this math puzzle of moving the things around. There's also things within the story you want to see happen. So that helps a little bit.
All right, so I like how it sounds.
But,
I like how it sounds like the mechanisms of the game for winning are there. There's goals, there's objectives, there's levers, there's tracks that you're moving, but the way you make that happen is through social influence of real people. Got to use your real social skills. It's almost like a BSG or what's the zombie one? Help me out here. Dead of Winter.
Dead of Winter?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's definitely more social than Dead of Winter, in my opinion. What we discovered, so whoever bids the most, like I said, at any given time is the leader, and that can pass from person to person. But also you can choose to not vote and instead get the moderator token, and you're the tiebreaker. And we've learned that was the biggest way to make money, because sometimes people don't want to spend enough power to be the majority. They just want to tie it and then give you some money to break it in your favor. And the moderator made bank almost the whole time. So being that person that people can come to and just kind of, line your hands with a little bit of gold was really valuable.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. The more you talk about it, the more I'm getting more back into being interested in it again to play it, just to experience. Because it sounds more, I wouldn't say it sounds more like sounds like an experience,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's definitely unique. It's not the kind of campaign game you're used to. And so I'll definitely recommend it just because it's kind of a breath of fresh air in that genre.
Yeah. And is it something that you can reset and play again and then it'll play differently the next time through? Or is it like once you've played it, you've pretty much seen it?
If you could get a reset pack for the stickers, you could probably, you'd have to put everything back.
So it is like it's like a true legacy game then.
Yeah. So once you, based on the decisions you make, you open envelopes. I'm sure we're not going to open all of them because a lot of them, it's like, so that one where we attack the first and attack the other country would have had to open the envelope that, spawns that storyline now that we've conquered them. But you're not destroying cards. It's just once you use cards, you put them back in the box. But as you're signing bills, you are sticking that onto the board because, like I said, that affects setup next time. So it would be hard to reset without some type of additional pack.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there a final product? Like some games let you do the legacy experience, and then at the end you end up with a playable game that's just been manipulated or changed, or you can never play it again when you're done.
I don't think you'd be able to play it again because you have to have the cards to make decisions, and as you use a card, it goes away because the storyline, it doesn't repeat what happens. Every decision you make, it's almost like a choose your own adventure, is going to affect what cards come up in the future. So you'd eventually run out of cards. So that is a negative to it.
You made it sound more interesting than Rob did. And I think that's because your focus is more on the social.
Well, Robin's theme, it's like oil and vinegar there.
Well, that's one thing that my buddy Jeremy brought up. It is a very themey game, but for being a themey game, the components are kind of just blah. It's just like a whiteboard with some
it's a very
black lines
dark
on it.
looking game.
Yeah. Well, the box, it's a king kind of like
right.
Stressed out. To me, that's a theme I'm interested in, like medieval, that kind of thing. The art is nice, but Jeremy, who's a stickler for stuff like that, he was upset that some of the art is repeated. But for me, I like that because, excuse me, like if you get, so anytime a new storyline happens, you shuffle it into the deck. So whenever you draw the card, you don't know which of the several storylines it's about until you read it. And so sometimes they would repeat that art, and I would know, oh, I remember seeing a card with that art, so I'm continuing along that story. I liked that. Jeremy thought that was a cheap cop-out, but each his own.
No, continuity matters. Kind of the throwback to, hey, this card is in the line of a card that we played last game. It kind of gives you that continuity. I'm with you on that one, Mitchell.
Hey, we agree for once.
I know, that's rare.
One thing that the rule book struggle with a little bit. What's that?
I said I'm writing.
Oh, you're writing it down.
Hold on.
One thing that I struggle with a little bit, and this happens with legacy games, is like the rule book wants to teach you the rules. They don't want to spoil anything. So sometimes they're kind of vague. So our first playthrough, I don't think we got stuff wrong, but it's like we were kind of having a guess and make sure we're doing stuff right. Had to check our rule book a lot. I don't know how to improve on that without there being spoilers, unless there's like maybe a tutorial scenario, kind of like with Jaws of the Lion. And even, I mean, we had all watched how to play videos. I had read the whole rule book, and it was still like, I think this is how it works. But that's the nature of the beast.
But you said you're four scenarios in. I mean, I'm sure you found your groove at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Jaws of the Lion in a way, in that it adds a little bit each time. So, like, remember how I said, like, for the setup is going to affect the people who are going to remember the bills you pass. Well, that doesn't happen the first round because there are no bills passed. And then I think around the third scenario, we got to our first event, which is kind of like there's a passive thing that's happening that you have to check against. So, but we got the main mechanics down. But whenever they throw something new in, we have to, kind of figure it out. And those are kind of things that aren't in the rule book, because then you would know that they were coming.
Yeah.
But again, that happens with a lot of legacy games.
I wouldn't say, I'm not going to say legacy game. Like, it happens a lot with legacy games. I think that happens a lot with games that try to be simple in rules. And because we as gamers want that broken down, detailed explanation, we can't see the simple. Is that the issue here?
Analyzing it too much.
Yes.
Well, I think actually, so 99% of the times you learn a game, someone's teaching it to you, right? With King's Dilemma or other games like that, I'm probably not going to be teaching this to anybody else, because I'm not going to play this again. I'm playing with my group. And so it's almost always going to be all brand new people playing it. I mean, maybe other people are down for playing a campaign more than one time. That's not my thing. I think that's part of the problem.
I'm all for a more simplified rule set. Like, I wasn't sure how I felt about that before, but we're playing through Sleeping Gods.
Sleeping Gods.
And that is in my mind, a simplified rule set. It really isn't very complex. And it really is allowing the story to show, to shine through. So is that what you're feeling with King's Dilemma, that by having a simplified rule set, minimal mechanisms, it's letting you enjoy the human part of the game?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a very strong storyline going through. A lot of times, what I would love, what would happen is, like, we're set with this dilemma, and we disagree on it, and somebody's like, no, if we do that, then just this is going to happen. We're like, no, that's not going to happen, and we outvote them, and we flip the card, and that's exactly what happened. Kind of like predicting what's going to happen, just like in real life, considering the consequences of your actions. That was a fun part of it.
Well,
what about you guys? What have y'all been playing?
Me? All right, so I'll bring a topic in here. My oldest son said to me this week, because my youngest son has really been into my D&D books. And I had a series of young kids versions of D&D books. So like the Young Adventurers, where they kind of teach you about different character classes, races. They teach you about dungeons and different monsters that go in them. Just a series of books by Wizards of the Coast. He's been tearing them up. And my oldest boy, who plays a lot of video games with him, my 18-year-old, has been seeing his interest in that. He walked in the room the other day and said, I wouldn't mind at least trying that once, Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, okay. Like, the kid's 18.
Did you start weeping?
The kid's like 18, and maybe twice in his life has he ever expressed any interest in playing any game with me. So what do you think I was doing yesterday after he said it while I'm packing to come out to this trip? I'm tearing up my D&D shelf, asking him, okay, what can I read during the flight to try to get set up? Like, where do I start? I'm like, I'm pulling out my different box sets. I'm pulling out different campaigns. I'm like, do I have any, one shots? I own the starter box. I own the essentials box. I own the Stranger Things box. And I'm like racking my brain. So finally I just kind of, you know what? Let's just do what it says. Go with the starter box. But then, of course, the article that I read on the plane, Hasbro just announced a new starter box, a new starter set. So it's got my FOMO going like, oh, do I just want to wait a little bit until this new version of the starter box comes out? I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. All I know is it feels good to hear my son say he wants to play a game, and I'm going to get through these starter rules. Have y'all had any opportunity to dabble in any of the new Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition starter or essential sets?
Not me.
No, D&D is just not my thing, man. I've tried it once, and maybe I was with the wrong group, but it just, I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me for some reason.
Same.
Man, I look at that.
You're on your own, Carlos.
I look at that box set. The starter set that I have now is going on Amazon for $13.29. We're talking like 2 60-plus page rule books, or one rule book, one adventure book. You got maps, you got dice, you got character sheets, you got pre-printed characters. And how many other games do we know of that can go this cheap? Hasbro's got some real pool or they're taking a hit, maybe like Microsoft did with the Xbox. They took a hit on the system and selling it just to get you hooked on the world.
Yeah. They're giving away the razor so you buy the blades.
That could be it.
Yeah. Well, I would say seize the opportunity, man, to play with your kid, because there may not be another one if you wait. So I definitely recommend just start rolling your characters as soon as you get back, just to keep them interested and see how it goes.
All right, I know what I'm reading on the plane. That's good advice coming from you, Michael. Your kids are, about 10 years older than mine, maybe a little more. So you got some more of that experience of.
I got a couple of kids that old, yeah.
we should be taking notes, Mitch.
When I first got them into games, it probably didn't go over too well, but it's you keep at it a little bit. You try to find the common ground, and if you can find that, I think I got them hooked in with DC Deck Builder. Superheroes, comic books, and stuff, something that they can relate to. And I think that game was thematic enough where, the asymmetrical powers matched up with who you were playing, and, certain things that happened during the game, were thematic enough. And it just kind of went on from there. Now, granted, not all my kids are 100% into games, but like Matthew with his kids and his family, he games every single night now after dinner before his kids go to sleep. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. That's just, he calls me up. He's like, I'm looking for the next, cause he has a 7-year-old and he's like, I need a game, that we can all play. And so, they play King of Tokyo all the time.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one for kids.
Yeah. And he's like, I just need something. Cause Graham is he's smart, man. They came into town, not that long ago, and I taught them Cascadia, and Graham was like, they were leaving the next night. He's like, do you think that we could play Cascadia again? And I was like, sure, so, a few of us got together, and the first time we played, he was sitting with my wife, and they're kind of playing together. But the next time, he played all on his own and picked up on everything, so he's pretty smart. And Matthew's like, I picked up Jamaica, and that's one of our new favorite games, and Machi Koro, and so I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I think the main
this is the topic: gaming with kids.
If you can find that common ground and keep them interested, somehow, it could definitely build off of something like that.
Yeah, that's something I need to do better. My kids are always very interested in my games, and whenever it's one that I feel like they can handle, I'll let them join in. But a lot of times, if it's one of the heavier things I'm playing, they're not going to get it. So I try whenever they're showing interest. If it's not one that I can teach to them, like the next day after game night, be like, hey, well, let's find a game we can all play. But I don't have a ton of those lighter games. I've got a handful that they can play. Like you mentioned, King of Tokyo, River Dragons, Q's and Q's. There's a few, but for the sake of my kids, I think I need to get some more on that level. Cascadia is a really good one. I hadn't thought about teaching that to kids, but yeah, I mean, that's trap something and place it down. That's all.
Right. And the cool thing about Cascadia, and I tell everybody this, I think what makes it such a great game, whether you're a beginner or that you've been in games for a while, regardless of what you like, you can only put an animal on a tile that has that animal symbol on it. By the end of the game, you're going to get points one way or the other. It doesn't matter if you don't know what the heck you're doing. You're going to get points at the end of the game. So it just, and at the end of the game, you got like this cool looking habitat. It has table presence, even though it's a pretty simple game. So even little kids like, I could put a bear on this bear symbol. Well, at the end of the game, look how many points you just got. Next time, we'll try something different. Maybe you'll get more points, something like that, just to get them hooked. I know it's kind of like give them the first one for free, and then have them pay for the next. It's, just get them hooked on something, to get them
After dark tips from a drug dealer.
How to get kids hooked. There we go. That's the message we'll end the show on.
There you go, man.
Now, Mitch, try Ark Nova with the kids. They'll love it.
Oh gosh, no! Last night I was playing Dinosaur Island Roar, right? Because that was my daughter. She's 8. She said, "Man, I really wish I could play that game." And I said, "When you get a little bit older," and she said, "I'm just very interested in this game." And Carlos, I mean, you fell asleep playing that game, so if you can't play it, I don't know if my 8-year-old.
Then go get Draftosaurus. $15, I think, ish. Draftosaurus looks like it. Looks a little bit like a Roar and Write. But definitely at her level.
Well, I think what she liked about it was not necessarily the dinosaur theme, but just the fact that it was a roll and write. So I was thinking maybe trying to teach her cartographers, kind of like what Mike was saying. You're going to get points somehow, even if you don't have a grand arching strategy, and you're still just kind of making something.
And even if you can't place something, you can always place a square. So she'll always be able to add 2 points, just not as efficiently. That's a good idea. I did forget to mention the game that I played the most this week yesterday, I'll say, was Palm Island. Actually, no, this week. Palm Island. It started Saturday at Nick's house in the hot tub. Rob and I were playing Palm Island. That's the one with
the plastic card?
It's a solo game, plastic cards. You can play with one hand, where you're using the cards to tap them or flip them or rotate them in order to upgrade them, to spend resources, to get points. And you're effectively playing solo. But the thing I want to bring up about it is its portability. Like I hate flying. Like you have no clue. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And this flight, the flights, because I had layovers to San Antonio, flew by. And my mind was at ease because I was focused on Palm Island the whole time. There's so few games that, there's some games you might need to drop the tray table, right, to be able to put components down, cards or dice or whatever, roll and write, flip and fills, et cetera, et cetera. But with Palm Island, tray table up, right, no phone on, airplane on the runway going before I realized, we're already taking off because I'm just focused on Palm Island, just kind of trying to beat my next score. So I want to give a shout out to the makers of Palm Island. We need more of these micro games that don't require a table or a space that you can just kind of put in your pocket and play in your hand. And I really think it's a combination of the mental aspect for me, of the thinking of what to do with cards, with the tactile physical piece of like tapping cards and moving cards around in my hand. The two really let my mind drop away from what was going on around me. So mad props to Palm Island. Thank you.
Cool.
And that gets
I
us
forgot
past
all
the
about
hour.
that game. I remember when I think you were talking about it like almost a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
When I had my back issues and I was laid out and I was having back injections to try to clear that out, just being able to lay down and play that game kept my mind. I completely forgot about it after I put it away since then. But then Nick had talked about doing his pool party for his son, and I had joked about Rob and I, in the hot tub playing some Palm Island. So we did it. We had a blast.
I didn't need that image.
Dude, I'll tell you, when you got man boobs, there's a place to store cards. Like you can just tuck them in there, and hands free, baby.
Carlos, I knew you would go here sooner or later, man.
It's after the dark. It's after our show, so we passed the after hours. Now we're in the after dark. Like it's getting nasty.
My gosh, man.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today. I want to thank Wayne for calling. So thank you, Mike Lorenzo, all the way from Washington, for joining us. Mitch from New Iberia, not Old Iberia, New Iberia, Louisiana.
Right.
Check them both out on YouTube's. Mike's on the One Mike, One Game, literally one game, and Mitch with Board Game Battle.
Holding true, baby.
Yeah, when's Two Mike, Two Games coming out? The new channel.
Soon.
Thanksgiving, 2028.
Yeah, there you go.
And then shout out to our one caller tonight, Wayne Kruger. My man came through. Rob said he'd call, but my man Wayne showed up. Stayed awake the whole time.
Note to self, changing the schedule doesn't work great, but it's okay. We had a good conversation.
I wanted to at least do the show. With work today, I had a lot of work till late, so I wanted to at least do something live. So thank you guys for helping make that happen. I'm Carlos.
Yeah, man, definitely.
And I'm joined with Mitch and Mike, and we are the Beans and Dice Podcast. We want to thank you all for watching. Have a good night, everybody. Let me put on some music.
Yeah.
Outro. Y'all stay on the phone. Play the outro. No. There we go.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.